Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Janet Irizarry. She is the founder and CEO of the MMK Method. The MMK Method focuses largely on creating food, supporting food waste so that there isn't any at a consumer level. It's very meaningful to a lot of us here, and we're excited to hear from you about the MMK method, what inspires you, and what kinds of change you hope to inspire. So, with that, Janet, if you could just please tell us what inspired you to start the MMK method?
Well, first of all, thank you, Justine, for having me because I love to talk about the MMK method. Um, I developed it, but it's been a process because I've always been environmentally conscious, and from I say the age of second grade, I always knew that I wanted to leave the planet either as it was then or better than it was. And it's taken me years to put this all together, but my focus on it is really doing what I think I can do and putting my passions together. And that is helping families reduce household food waste and educating our kids because they are the future. And unfortunately, just the way of the world, their busy schedules, and the world of abundance they've grown up in, they might not have the respect for food. And I don't even want to say that because that sounds kind of harsh because that's what my mindful kitchen is. It's about looking at things where you don't have to be perfect or obligated. We're looking at things in a positive aspect. So no fault of the kids, like, they're just living the lives we're living. And food and family, sitting around the table and just talking about food and where it comes from is kind of a little bit fallen by the wayside. And so if kids learn about food at an early age, they will just automatically do better than, and dare I say this, than we have.
Right, right. No, I think it's true because kids are curious, right? Kids want to know. They're always asking why, but why, right? That's like you can say anything. We have to go now, but why? You know, eat this apple versus that apple, but why? So
Exactly.
if we go back to that, right, and we remember that these kids are curious, more curious than many adults these days, right? It's who they are at a young age. By answering some of those questions and giving them the guidance, there's a potential opportunity to give them the tools, the information, the education, and make it more part and integral to their life so that as they continue, it's going to be part of their core value system. So really, when I think about what you're doing, it's really incorporating those values at a young age so they are part of the children and their as they grow up, that it's just natural. It's not something you have to think about. It's not something that you're forced to do. It's something that's become ingrained. Is this a correct?
You're spot on. And a few comments to that is, first of all, I am an instructor at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, and I teach hospitality. And that's one of the first classes that the students get when they come into it's like the introduction to the CIA. And most of the students coming in just think, you know, hospitality is a restaurant business or hotels, but it's also the concept of hospitality. But so I'm seeing the students as they're first coming in from high school.
Mhm.
And it's amazing to me that they haven't learned more about sustainability. And it's not really amazing to me because I understand it. Because as I had just said about they've grown up in a world of abundance and they've never been educated on things like, where their food comes from and all the resources it takes to get to their table. And if they had just learned a little bit more about that, it would be a whole different story. And I always talk about my grandson. I've told the story so many times. He's 6, and it must have been last year, so he was probably 5 at the time. I was at his house, and his mom had ordered Peapod, which is a delivery service of food. And he walked out on the front step and he saw them coming. He goes, "Thank you, universe." And it just is a perfect example how kids don't even understand where their food comes from or the money it takes, the hard work their parents have put in so they have the money to provide for them. So that's part of the method, is teaching and educating and bringing those conversations into the home, so that it's awareness. It's simple awareness that can just change habits so easily.
What role does educating the parents come into within this method? Because there are a lot of parents that, not passing judgment, just may not be aware or may not have the knowledge to share, but want to be able to share it and talk about it so that they can create positive change. So is that integral to your method?
Yeah, so the method is actually, I've put it into a course, okay? And the course is 4 modules, and it starts by building awareness. And then the next 3 modules are all about the things you can do and strategies. It's really simple. If you want to know more about how the course works, I'm happy to talk about it. But it does include getting the kids involved and what I call discussion starters.
Hmm.
So, first of all, if you want to reduce your waste, and there's many reasons to reduce your waste besides just environmentally correct, which that is where I think many people fall short. They don't understand the significance of food waste. And for anyone who's listening who does not, it is one of the major contributors to climate change, because it puts greenhouse gases into the air when it's at the landfill. And household food waste is the number one contributor to all the food in our landfill. So that's why it's so important to be aware and reduce your food waste. On the other side is the economic reasons. Um, as an ex restaurant owner, I can tell you, if throwing out food is like throwing out money,
Right.
and it's it's just smart. And I, in the course, like to point out that it's fun too, because I like to say that, that high you get when you get to the bottom of your laundry as you're folding it and you find that all the socks match, that you don't have any
Oh,
leftovers.
very exciting times. Yeah.
That's the same feeling you get when you go into your refrigerator and find that broccoli that you might have pushed aside 3 weeks ago, and it's as good as it was when the day you bought it. I'll tell you a funny story. When I did a food waste challenge in my local area a couple of years ago, and I had 80 families together, and I was just kind of piloting something. It was part of another initiative I was doing. And what I found is we went through it 6 weeks all together. And what I found was afterwards, it was just simple awareness that changed habits, and people were like having those aha moments.
Hmm.
But besides that, it's the small changes that can be made that make the difference. But so in my head, I kept on saying, I need to put this out to more people. And as someone who's very mindful and likes the spirituality and bringing that into my home, I was like, wow, that's all it takes is mindfulness. So the whole method is really centered around mindfulness and being positive and working on something together as a family that's good, and that brings in those conversations and teaches those lessons.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me. What comes to mind is that I know that it can be overwhelming when you feel like you need to do everything. Oh my God, I need to do this and I need to do that. So, what's the best way to break that down so that you can feel like you're having an impact and you're being mindful of food waste in your home? Maybe even thinking about the role of upcycling or something so that you feel like you're being successful and not falling short because you make one mistake.
Well, this we point out at the very beginning of the method. This is not about feeling obligated or perfect. It's about having fun with it and going at your own pace in the way that feels good to you. And I love the fact that you brought up upcycling, because the people who are going through the course right now, most of them have no idea what that word actually is. And so we bring that to mind. We talk about it in a way that is easy to understand and just has you thinking more about your food. And why am I buying beets, and I cut off the bulb and I throw the stem and the leaves away, I could be doing something with those, and that's, bringing those words in and having them understand them. And now, as like me, I know you are totally in that space where you're always reading articles, and that's commonplace for you. But most people, the word upcycling is totally foreign to them. So just by educating is bringing awareness and changing habits.
And I think the other thing that I think of, right, you have the food waste because we use parts of vegetables and all sorts of things. So being able to be creative to make those recipes and have fun with that and look online and what can you make with this or etc. is a fun way to do that and incorporate the whole family, right? If you're cooking. The other thing that I often think about though is, if you have a bowl of fruit, right, and you put all the fruit next to each other, some of it gets ripe faster because it's next to another kind of fruit. You put some in the fridge, and there's been conversations about different ways to store your fruits and vegetables and your bread to make sure that they can have a longer life. What role does that play in it for you? And are people familiar with this? Is this
No,
foreign to
no. In fact, I have someone going through the course right now with, I swear to you, 10 minutes ago, wrote to me and she said, I had no idea about the ethylene effect. How come I didn't know? Because we talk about that. So we talk about things like first in, first out. We talk about the ethylene effect. We talk about your refrigerator and how to store things properly for maximum, you know, um, food life, and it's really fun. We do it in a really fun, easy way. Because once again, hey, listen, I threw out something today. I felt horrible about it. I'm not perfect. I did it. Um, but you do the best you can. But that's a big part of it. And just learning that. So we have actually an activity that we talk about the ethylene effect, and then we suggest that when you come home from the grocery store, you have two different stickers, and you have your children put stickers on the fruits and vegetables that produce a lot of ethylene, and then another sticker, like two different colors. So it just gets ingrained in their brain, as well as the mom realizing this for the first time, because once you start doing it, it just comes naturally. And after a little while, you won't have to put stickers on your fruits and vegetables. You'll just say, oh, look, this doesn't go with that. That doesn't go with this. But it's
so for
fun.
those, if you were going to recommend or give people a couple tools that they could use to make this process a little bit easier for themselves and fun to start being mindful of this, what are the three top things that you might recommend?
First of all, knowing what you have being organized in
Right.
all your storage areas, because if you don't know what you have, there's a chance you're going to overbuy it, and so therefore that leads to waste. Or the other thing is the refrigerator, using the refrigerator as a tool to keep the foods fresher longer. Because believe it or not, the refrigerator has different sections on the refrigerator, and they're built to keep your food, like the crisper drawer. There's certain foods you should put in the crisper drawer. There's other foods that don't belong in it. Some needs humidity, some don't need humidity. And the doors of your refrigerator, those should be left for like condiments where that don't really need to be kept at a certain temperature all the time. They're a little bit more susceptible or unsusceptible, I guess that would be the word, to going bad. The other thing is expiration dates. We talk about that, which is a big, big topic in the food waste space, because people, and I know for a fact, I actually had someone who's going through the course who I personally know, and she goes, this course is great. I'm going to go into my pantry and cabinets. I'm going to throw away all the food that's outdated. I was like, no, don't do that yet. We're going to talk about that. No, expiration dates are really subjective. And so, kind of using your senses to know if something's good or bad
Mhm.
is really important. So, it's so learning about not just accepting that expiration dates are, you know,
Subjective.
yeah, they're not the Bible. I tell a story that a few weeks ago, I found a log of mozzarella cheese. that had expired a month before. It was fresh mozzarella. And I opened it up, smelled it, looked at it, touched it, tasted it. It was fine. But most people, because they've seen that expiration date, it goes, done.
Think about the holidays. I love leftovers on the holidays. I love inviting people over and making a big meal and then having those leftovers. I don't like the leftovers when I'm just cooking for myself. That's not as interesting because I don't put as much into it because I don't have anybody sitting there telling me, wow, this is so yummy. I just don't get the same high from that as even if I'm cooking for myself.
Now I hear what you're saying. You're saying when you cook for a lot of people, you cook with a lot of love. When you cook for yourself, you don't cook for love. So it doesn't. You got to change that, Justine. You're worth every.
I know I am, but like I'll make a steak and broccoli for myself, right? And I'll eat it.
Mhm.
And maybe there'll be a little piece of steak and I'll eat that the next day. But when I cook for people, I cook with abundance and I cook to have a variety of things. So therefore, when I go to the refrigerator, it's not just eating the same thing over and over. There's like all these different things to choose from because I want to, it's my sort of love language, if you will, that I cook and I cook with abundance because I want to make sure everybody's got something to eat or it's a little bit of everything. Um, and
And
I don't
so,
myself. I cook for myself. I make a steak and a broccoli or broccolini, and that's fine. And the steak the next day is amazing. I like good cold steak.
yeah,
Um,
so the other day, my husband said he was in the mood for chili. So he made this wonderful chili and we had it for dinner the next night. The night after, we had it on nachos. The
right,
night, oh, no, I waited because I can't eat leftovers 3 days in a row. I do have to skip a day. Um, and my husband was actually disappointed we didn't have it the next day. But the day after, I made it into like a wrap. So I put the chili, I made some rice, we put it in, and we did like a burrito kind of thing with it. So getting creative and changing up the flavor so it's not the same. When I made the burritos, I added some other seasonings in it to make it a little bit more Mexican
right.
style. And I put it, the avocado on it and whatever. And to me, that's the same thing. Like you just get a joy out of it because you've changed it, you've saved money, you feel like, whoa, it's like that sock example, right? We say, when you go to Marshall's and you find this designer top that is marked down from 150 to $20 and it's in your size. And when people say, oh, I love what you're wearing, you say, oh, I got this for $20 instead of
Always,
saying,
always. Thank you. You
instead of,
don't say thank you. You just say, oh, what a deal.
that's the, that's the feeling you get when you do that. And I do have people calling me saying, you're not going to believe what I just did with my stale bread.
Question for you. So, for those folks that maybe aren't in your area or not near CIA to take this class
Oh, it's online.
online, oh my gosh. So, everybody's got access to this.
That's what it is. It's for the consumer. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's, I understand parents have
Busy.
busy schedule. Yeah. So I made it as easy as I could and as short as I could. And so how it gets delivered, the course gets delivered via an email drip sequence. So if you sign up for the course 3 times a week, it gets delivered right to your inbox. And there's no need to sign into a course because you just click the link and it goes to the lesson. The lesson has a short 2 to 6 minute video talking of the topic. I have this wonderful mom, Margot, who explains the topic in a way that's fun and easy to comprehend. And she has a little bit of humor. It might be dry humor, but she has humor nevertheless. And just alone watching the videos in every lesson, there's 30 lessons total. Takes 10 weeks because you're doing 3 a week. And so she makes it easy. If you just watch the videos, you're going to change. But if you want, there's additional resources like to get the kids involved. There's a short video on how food gets from the farm to the table. There's a video on food miles, the resources used. So there's games to play, there's activities to do, there's discussion starters. And so it really can fit easily into someone's schedule. They're waiting for um, their child to pick them up at the bus and they can just click on it, watch the video, and then decide where to go from there.
I mean, it sounds like it's really accessible because I know that if you listen to podcasts or you have a choice between a 20-minute one and an hour and a half one, it's hard to schedule time for the hour and a half one, but somehow we find 20 minutes, right?
Right.
20 minutes is easier. So your 2 to 6 minute videos are very doable. You could be on a treadmill, you could be walking the dog.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and I think that that sort of inspires change, right? So I'm curious, with all these videos and with the education and the community that you've built, can you share some of the greatest changes that have been reported to you by the people that have taken the course?
Well, first of all, I have to let you know the course as it stands right now is just being launched. The people who are taking it are beta testers and telling me how good it is, or and making sure it's all okay for everyone. But the reactions are amazing. Like I just told you, someone just wrote to me and said, "Oh, I never knew about the ethylene effect." When I did it with the families a few years ago, they were just seeing that they're, you know what? If we're talking about kids, mommy moments, where mommy, I want this, can I have this, blah, 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 got reduced because kids now understand why mommy's saying no to certain things. Like you go to the grocery store and, mommy, we need these. We already have apples. We have green apples at home. We got to finish those first. But I want the red ones. Well, remember that would be just throwing them out. Unless you can figure out what to do with the green apples, then we'll buy the red apples next time. We got to finish those up. And all of a sudden the kid goes, I get it. It's not such a fight.
So as you're building out this, you're launching this beta program, this beta class, and you're speaking with the families or the moms so that they can inspire conversations with the kids. And it's new right now. But if you're thinking, down the road, right? What are you hoping to achieve by kicking this off and inspiring that change? Like what's the biggest change? What change can you hope for or do you strive for?
It just has to come naturally to people. We have to get out of. So I want to create a world of mindful foodies. I don't see this as a little project. I see this as something big. It's easy to do. And I think what makes it so unique is, once again, as I said, there's food waste challenges out there. Everyone's trying to do community initiatives, but they're so hard. They're not something people want to invest their time in or realize that it's not going to make them feel as good as being mindful. And people who follow mindful practices, they do it because it makes them align with their values. And I think you brought it up at the very beginning of this conversation. I cannot think of one value, and I believe we're all born with good values. We want to be kind, we want gratitude, appreciation. There's not one value that we can't learn through respecting our food.
Yep.
And I think it can be fun. Let's not make it this thing we have to do. Like, we don't have, if the power is in our own kitchens, we don't have to wait for policies to be passed. We don't have to wait for infrastructures to be passed. Oh, I hear they're going to be doing recycling or, blah, 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 blah. We can't wait. The problem is now. And, it's so evident with the weather events we've had, the hurricanes, the fires, that climate change is real. And instead of feeling helpless and saying, what can I do? I feel so bad. You can't change the past, but you can start today creating a brighter future. And it's easy and fun and it's positive. And that's what I wish is people just see the fun and joy of treating food with respect and becoming mindful foodies.
So, as they have these conversations and as you start to create a movement, let's just say, of mindful foodies, right? What kind of, if you could quantify it, what would positive change look like on people's wellness and the planet down the road? What kind of change do you hope this inspires?
Well, there's economic change, more money, like as far as households and families, and also just in general, globally, it's methane emissions being reduced significantly. Um, so when the kids go out into the world and they're doing jobs, they will create the policies or just, you know, treat food differently and not be so apt just to throw it out, and they understand what's happening. So I might have gone off track a little bit, but the bottom line is we're going to make a healthier planet. We are going to be more in line with our values, we good values. And I want food and family to be back to enjoying it and not have the kitchen such a scary place because everyone's being so rushed. Because if you ask me, one of the major benefits of being a mindful foodie is having things in its place and being able to spend less time in the kitchen because you've planned and you know what you have. You're not running out to the store for this and that. So it's overall well-being. And also, to your point, is by making healthy food choices, it's not just for a physical body, but we can teach our kids about it. It's a way of talking about healthy eating. One of the games that the kids can play when they go to the grocery store is to compare labels and try and read the ingredients and find out which box of cereal is healthier than the other. So these are, I say, once a mindful foodie, always a mindful foodie. So I just want to make a world of mindful foodies.
Okay, we're going to build a movement of mindful foodies. So
That's my,
if you want, so if you know, we have a lot of founders, we have a lot of people on that listen and watch the video that are inspired to just create change in the home, right? So everybody's interested, and our goal is really to inspire, engage, and empower, right? So what would be if we could just bullet out, list out 3 things that somebody could do to create change in their house among their families, what would they be?
is to have conversation with the family of where food comes from.
Okay, that's one. What's two?
Two is appreciate what you have and in, look at food beyond just nourishment. Look at the effect by not wasting and preventing food waste you have on the rest of the world.
Okay, and what's three?
Three is to work together as a family to do something good. There's just so much negativity in the world when you can work on such a big chore as mitigating climate change or fighting inflation. When you work together, there's a power in that. And so it's conversation, 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 and have fun with it. Just have fun.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I mean, one thing I'll just add from my perspective that I also really appreciate is the idea that it brings family back around the table and it fosters conversation, connection, collaboration, education, and it can become, something that we talk about over dinner. Dinner, meals at the table have become a bit of a lost art. Everybody's so busy, everyone's eating at different times. So when I think about it, I think about, okay, well, can we carve out the time to have the meal with our family? Can we carve out the time to even cook with our kids and make that part of the activity? And then even shopping. As you were sitting here talking, I got inspired. And I was like, well, I wonder if there's an app where we take a picture of our refrigerator and we see what's in there. And then we cross reference it with our list so we don't double buy. I don't know if that exists, but that's what you inspired me to think about.
Well, we have the tools for you because we're going to give you a list so you can inventory before you go. So, just quickly, the awareness module. Then the second one is about about organizing your house or your kitchen area. Second is about storing food properly. The third module is all about planning and shopping. And the fourth module is about mindful cooking or making your kitchen more mindful, which really doesn't, we don't teach cooking. That's not what it is. We teach the mindset. And so all of what you said is right on the money. And we give you the tools to do it. And you have Margot, who is the mom in the videos, to cheer you on and make it sound like fun and make you any reason that you might not be doing it right now. It's not about feeling guilty. It's about saying you're totally normal, but let's get through this together and it's not as bad as it
Awesome,
seems.
Janet. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank our guests for tuning in, whether they're listening on to the podcast or watching the video cast. Don't forget you could do both. Podcast is on YouTube, and I'm sorry, our video cast is on YouTube. Our podcast is anywhere you listen to podcasts at Essential Ingredients. And again, if you want to get some clips for upcoming episodes or see what's coming down the pipeline, don't forget to tune in and follow us on Instagram at essential.ingredients. Look forward to seeing you here again next week. Thanks again, Janet.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was great.